Welcome to a special segment of In Their Boots. I'm here for an extended conversation with Amy Neiberger-Miller. She is the Communications and Public Affairs Officer for TAPS, and she herself lost a brother who was serving with the U.S. Army in 2007. Amy, thanks for being a part of the show, and welcome to In Their Boots.
Thank you.
And to get right into it, can you tell us your personal story and the loss you suffered?
Well, I actually found out that my brother had been killed in Iraq when I was at the beach with my family. I actually found out over the phone. The military came to the house where my parents live in Gainesville, Florida, and the two soldiers went up to the door and knocked, and my brother Eric opened the door and saw them there. And our parents were not home. They were actually volunteering at a camp for terminally ill children and were a couple of hours away. And so my brother had to call our parents and tell them that two soldiers from the military had come to the house and needed to speak with them immediately. And my father said to me later that he knew the minute he talked to Eric that Chris had died and that he had been killed. And after the soldiers traveled a couple of hours to my parents and told them, they started trying to reach all of us. And my mother was trying to get a hold of me, but I was in a very remote area and she couldn't reach me. But I did eventually get the message and got a hold of another relative, my aunt, and she's actually the one who told me that Chris had been killed. And I have to say, I kind of went out of my mind a little bit. I remember I dropped the phone and I started screaming, and I ran outside. We were staying at a beach house with my stepchildren, and I was getting ready for dinner actually, and my husband was downstairs prepping the grill for 20 people to come over in about 15 minutes. And I came running out of the house and I was screaming and was trying to get to him and pretty incoherent. And I told him. And so for us, this was a very traumatic loss. My brother had just turned 22 years old 3 days before. I had talked to him about 3 weeks before he was killed. And we talked about the future and things that he wanted to do later in life after he got back from Iraq. And, he seemed, like he was happy, like he had found himself. Yeah. And that he liked what he did.
Amy, can you talk about briefly how that experience and that loss led you to where you're at now in life?
Well, basically within a 2-week period, we found out my brother died. We held a memorial service in our hometown. I actually work in media relations, and so I also manage the media for my family. And then we had the funeral here at Arlington National Cemetery, and I live near the cemetery actually in Washington, D.C. And so this was a very intense experience for us. And as part of my own healing, I found I needed to connect with other survivors. And so I called TAPS, which I had heard about from our casualty assistance officer, and was put in touch with another sister who, like me, had lost a younger brother. Her brother is actually buried about 5 rows behind mine at Arlington National Cemetery in Section 60. And I found with my new friend a place of connection, someone who understood. There is definitely a camaraderie among surviving families that you do not find anywhere else. That these are people who understand what this feels like in a way that other people, as kind as they are, do not understand.
Amy, you talk about kind of yearning for that connection. And in our real story this week, we see Nicole in her resistance and almost fear in sending the email to get in touch with the American Widow Project. Can you talk about the range of reactions you see in your line of work as far as people reaching out for help?
We see a pretty broad range of reaction from families that reach out fairly quickly to families where it takes a long time. I actually just was contacted yesterday by a surviving sister who would like to join our online sibling community. And she wanted to connect with us And she had known about us for over a year, but had not been able to reach out to us. Um, and I think there is this sense of hesitancy that if I connect with other people, then I'm going to be like them. They're going to say I have to dress a certain way or act a certain way. Um, and in actuality, what you find within these different kinds of peer support networks is a place of understanding, a place where no one tells you how to feel, and no one is going to say to you, you need to get over it. It was just your brother. No one's going to say that to you here.
Yeah. Well, for you, when you entered TEPS, now you work for them, but just getting into the organization and benefiting from the networking they bring together, what was your biggest surprise?
I think my biggest surprise was the amount of laughter and life that you see at our events. One of the first events actually that I was involved with for TAPS was our team with the Marine Corps Marathon. I had agreed to help out with, helping with some media work for that. And I went over to this hotel where about 200 of the families were staying, and I had never been in a room with so many survivors before. And it was full of laughter, and there were children running everywhere. Like you could trip over children. There were so many children all over the place. Um, there was a lot of warmth and a lot of love there. And we are very much about remembering the life and sharing that journey together. We want to remember the people that we've lost and deal with our loss, but we also want to find strength in that.